Hi, my name's Garland Nixon, and we're going to talk about a recent statement made by President Joe Biden, in which he referred to Russian President Vladimir Putin as a killer with no soul. What does it mean? What are the consequences? Let's chat. Hi there. Howdy. Hi there, friends and neighbors. My name's Garland Nixon, and we're going to talk about the Biden administration's last week or so of diplomatic bungling, blundering, and just plain old screwing up. And it's very important stuff here. And let's start with the statement that President Biden made about President Vladimir Putin. So he's talking with George Stephanopoulos, former Clinton guy. George Stephanopoulos is a guy that, according to my research, he's worth about $40 million. He's making about $15 million a year in his media career to ask these types of questions. And one could argue to do the bidding of the deep state, right? So what's he do? So he's talking to Joe Biden, and he asked him, this is the question. This is the question that Donald Trump was asked. Is Vladimir Putin a killer? When Donald Trump was asked, he gave an answer. And as if you all know me, you know I'm a lefty. I'm no Trump fan, but I'm just a guy. I'm a political analyst, so I try to understand politics from an unbiased perspective. So Donald Trump gave what I would consider, an honest answer. He said, "Look, we're no angels. Yeah, come on. You're the head of state of a superpower. You're going to make life and death decisions. There's no way around it." So to call Vladimir Putin a killer is not to say anything. As an example, 2 weeks before that, Joe Biden ordered an airstrike in Syria that killed 22 people. And he's a killer? Mohammed bin Salman, ace type ally of Joe Biden and the United States, right? This guy very recently killed a writer for the Washington Post named Jamal Khashoggi, right? Lured the guy into the embassy in Turkey, took him out, cut him up with a bone saw. So Putin's a killer. So here's what that means. Here's what that really means. I'm not calling him a killer. That doesn't mean literally a killer, because I killed people, lots of people. If I'm Joe Biden, I pushed the Iraq war, 1 million people dead on a war front. So it doesn't mean that he's saying you killed people. Technically, literally, you are a killer. It's something far different, right? What is it? And I think Putin understands what it is. I think the rest of the world understands what it is, because I understand really what it is, right? Here's what it is. In U.S. regime change language, right? In U.S. regime change actions, the U.S. wants to overthrow certain countries, right? And a couple examples. The U.S. wants to overthrow the government of Syria and put in a puppet government. So what do they say? Assad is a dictator, a brutal murderer, and a killer. He is some kind of a fiend, a beast, a monster, right? Okay. The U.S. wants to overthrow Venezuela and steal their oil. So what does the U.S. say? Maduro's a dictator. He's a fiend. He's a beast. Are you starting to notice a pattern here, right? I mean, sadly, there's still people stupid enough in America to believe this crap. But the reality is this. Once the CIA determines we want to overthrow that country, one of the first things that you must do is demonize the leader of the country. The leader of that country must be the most evil fiend on earth. He must be incorrigible. He must be a person that there's no way you could ever discuss anything with him, because he's so evil. The equivalent of a werewolf. Think about this. Could anybody ever watch werewolf movies? I've always loved werewolf movies, right? Anybody ever watch a werewolf movie? You can't negotiate with a werewolf. I mean, the guy who is a werewolf, he's like A nice guy, Garland, for instance. The moon comes out, the fangs, the hair, and he is just a vicious fiend. And anybody he sees him, he rips them to pieces because he's a werewolf. That's what you do. If you're a werewolf, you just rip people up, right? That's what you're saying. Right? So, can you negotiate with a werewolf? Of course not. Can you have like a pet werewolf? Here, Wolfie, Wolfie boy, let me throw you a biscuit. No, he's not going to tear you to shreds. You can't negotiate with a werewolf. You can't deal with an werewolf because a werewolf in a movie represents pure evil, pure viciousness, pure violence. That's what a werewolf represents in a movie, right? Okay. So, let me take you back. The US or whatever goes to overthrow go back to the 1800s, England, US, whoever, you're going to overthrow a country and there's people in there, brown people of some type. What do you call? They're savages. What does that mean? You can't negotiate with savages. Why? They just want to kill us for no reason. Hey, we're taking their country and their land and everything else and killing them. But that's not important now. They're savages. What is it? It is an old tactic. It means you must dehumanize your adversary, your enemy. That, look, in the military, you're at war. You can literally be shot for fraternizing with the enemy. Why is that? Because you got an enemy over there, you're shooting back and forth. If you were to sit down and talk to that guy on the other side of the trenches and say, all right, evil enemy person, and that person was to hold up a picture and say, this is my wife and kids, and you're like, oh boy. This is little Garland right here, and this is little Mary, and this is little Tiffany. These are my kids. Oh, look, here's a picture of us. If you were at war and you were to sit down and you were to look and you were to go right now, if you were to go to that person's house and sit down and have tea within their family and you go back to the battle lines, could you kill them? Could you shoot them? No, because you realize now that they're a human. So you can't fraternize with the enemy in a war because the people in charge know that once you realize that the other people are just humans, just like you, and they got wives and kids and brothers and sisters, and you see the pictures, you're not going to want to kill them anymore. So you got to dehumanize them, right? Okay. That's what this was. Vladimir Putin knows it as well as I do, as well as anybody who deals with international diplomacy. That's why there's a decorum in international diplomacy in the way that you dress in a respectful manner. You use diplomats, international diplomats, they speak about each other in a respectful manner because they know, look, I got to come back and I got to negotiate whether I like this person, don't like it, their country, whatever. In diplomatic circles, there are decorums. You don't say certain things about your adversaries or other diplomats. You don't act in a certain way because you got to come back and talk to them and work out a deal. But not if you're at war. If you're at war, you must turn them into some evil werewolf type creature. And therefore, the only thing they're worthy of is destruction. You see, if you are a killer with no soul, as I said, I love werewolf movies. You're describing a werewolf. I watched a lot of werewolf movies. How many times do you see in a werewolf movie? What happens, right? What happens? Usually, like American Werewolf in London, right? So the woman falls in love with the guy who's the werewolf, or it could be the other way around. Whatever. American Werewolf in Paris, it was the other way around. The guy fell in love with a woman that was a werewolf, right? And what happens? At the end of the movie, somewhere at the end of the werewolf movie, the beloved person, the love interest of whoever this person is, right? The other person is, the love interest transforms into the werewolf. So there, the werewolf sits there, the vicious fiend, and the woman, or in one instance, a man, whatever, and the woman walks up and looks into the eyes of the werewolf and says, please, basically, I know you're in there, Bill. Bill, I know that somewhere deep in the heart of this vicious, fiendish beast that I'm looking at is Bill. And they believe in their heart that they can look into the eyes of the werewolf, and the werewolf will realize, oh, yes, I really am Bill, and I shouldn't tear you to shreds. Well, it never works. And the werewolf goes to jump at him, and there's people with guns, and they shoot the werewolf, and then the woman or whoever cries, oh, they killed Bill. The werewolf then transforms back into Bill, and then Bill just says, oh, I'm sorry, honey, and then he dies, and the movie's over, and you cry because you understand that Bill was a werewolf and he couldn't help himself. All right. All that to get back to what I'm talking about. This is back to what I'm talking about. But when Bill's a werewolf, there ain't a bargaining with him, isn't it? So when Joe Biden, it's very, very important to understand that when Joe Biden said to Vladimir Putin, You are a killer with no soul. He was saying, I can't negotiate with you. I can't work out deals with you. I can't do diplomacy with you because you, sir, are the epitome of evil and there is no good in you anywhere. Now, think about that because what does that also say? In order for me to determine that you are completely evil, incorrigible, and there is no good in you, I have to have certain traits to be able to make that determination. I am the arbiter. See, what Joe Biden was implying also, right? There's an implied statement when I say you're evil and you're bad. It implies that I'm good enough and smart enough and wise enough and that I have the authority to make that determination, the determination of who's good and who's bad. So what Joe Biden said a number of things to Vladimir Putin and the world. Let's start parsing them out. He said, number one, I can never, ever negotiate with Russia in good faith because their leader is pure evil with no soul. So the days of me negotiating in good faith with the world's other nuclear superpower, Russia can destroy the United States in a matter of hours, in the same way that the US can destroy the United States in a matter of hours. So the only country that's capable of doing that on the level that Russia is, they are a nuclear superpower in exactly the same way that we are. Joe Biden, by saying that their leader is a killer with no soul, has said the only country that has the equal that we do in nuclear power that can kill all human beings in a matter of hours. There is no place for diplomacy between the United States and Russia because the United States leader is so evil and vicious and horrible, and he has no soul. If he has no soul, I could never trust him. He's just a liar and a thief and a killer and a murderer. He's the equivalent of a werewolf, a savage, a fiend, a beast, right? Well, the rest of the world doesn't believe that. Vladimir Putin's been in charge running Russia since for the last 20 years. He's made plenty of deals with people right now. He's got a number of economic deals with countries around the world. He's in the process of executing Nord Stream 2, this gigantic gas pipeline line with Germany. I mean, there are other people that believe, hey, we got pretty good deals with Russia to buy and sell things. Vladimir Putin over the last 20 years has been a reliable economic partner for a number of countries, including European countries and even the US, because we buy and sell with them. But Joe Biden has now put us on a new footing with Russia because he has said that under the Biden administration, the leader of Russia and by proxy, the entire country will be viewed as pure evil. And we can't have negotiations or diplomacy with this country anymore. Now, as I said earlier, the reason that is so dangerous and makes sense and it's dangerous is because the world already knows the regime change game. The world already knows that the United States is a regime change monster. That the United States views a country and says, look, there's two kinds of countries. There's countries that we have overthrown and conquered and we put bases in and we ain't never leaving, right? We're never leaving, never, ever, ever leaving. I mean, look, Germany, Japan, 1945, we still have bases there and we haven't left. Korea, 1953, we still got bases there, we haven't left. We don't leave, but there are people like, hey, when are we leaving Afghanistan? We're going to leave Afghanistan the same time we leave Japan, same time we leave Germany, same time we leave Korea. Never. We are an empire. We're not a nation. Empires conquer countries and never, ever leave. And they conquer another one and they hold that one. They conquer another one, they hold that. And that's what the U.S. is doing. And then the U.S. is going to try to overthrow Venezuela and conquer it, overthrow Syria and conquer it, overthrow Iran and conquer it. Okay, those are small. You're getting smaller countries. Now you're getting to Iran. You're getting to a good-sized country. The U.S. is having problems because they're too big for us to go wandering in thinking we're going to conquer them, right? But what we've said to Russia now, what we've said to Vladimir Putin is, we view you in exactly the same way as we view Syria, and in exactly the same way as we view Venezuela. Right? We will demonize their leaders. And we will attempt to overthrow them and steal their resources and install a puppet country. But first, what do we do first? What's numero uno? Because see, the reason this crap works is because they propagandize the American people. The American people, look, I learned of weapons of mass destruction. With the weapons of mass destruction lie, Garland Nixon learned. I said, I'll never trust these people again. When they tell me that a leader is evil, I know he ain't. I know that they just want to overthrow the country. When they tell me this country is evil, I know that they just want to overthrow the country and steal their resources and put in a puppet government. I learned my lesson, but most Americans are suckers. And they know that. All they know for the Democratic Party, they know already. The Democratic Party learned nothing from the weapons of mass destruction lies. They spent 3 years telling them Robert Mueller is going to take Trump out for being a Russian puppet. And when the Mueller report came out and said, nah, sorry, there's no evidence to that. Do you think the Democrats were like, hey, we've been had? No, no. They bit the propaganda. Look, Barack Obama. 2015, Barack Obama says, look, here's what we got to do. We need to pivot to Asia. We need to back off of the Middle East, and we need to go after China because China's growing too fast. We need to demonize China. We need to go after China. We need to put China down, right? He started doing that. Look. American suckers bit the hook the same way they bit the hook for Russia. Republicans are now executing Barack Obama's strategy. The Republicans are like, I hate Obama. All of his stuff, everything he said is bad. Oh, really? What about Donald Trump? What about Barack Obama's strategy to pivot to Asia and to go after China and call them terrible? Oh, I'm down with that. So, interestingly enough, Barack Obama came up with the pivot to Asia and the demonized China strategy, and the suckers in the Republican Party are now working for Barack Obama, and they don't even have sense enough to know it. So that's why Garland Nixon says when the CIA via MSNBC, CNN, or Fox says to Garland Nixon, hey, that country over there is evil and their leader is just a mess. He's evil. I'm like, yeah, I remember weapons of mass destruction. Sorry, you can't get me. Good try. There's some suckers over there. Try the two brainwashed cults. The blue cult and the red cult. You give them an evil, somebody evil, and they're going to bite the hook because they're cults, and that's what cults do. Cults are just waiting for the cult leader to give them an enemy. And when the cult leader comes to the Democrats and say, well, Trump didn't really win. It was the Russians. The Democrats, knew it. Them sons of bitches, we got to get them. And then when Barack Obama is like, hey, Republicans, yeah, that Chinese Communist Party's evil, don't you think? The Republicans are like, hey, you're Barack Obama. All right, hold on, never mind. Hey, Trump, tell them that. Trump's like, yeah, China's evil. They're like, oh, Trump said it now? Oh, my God. We will execute Barack Obama's strategy because they're suckers. I ain't a sucker. Okay, let's move on. So now that we know that the Russians are very clear. They don't have to guess anymore that the regime change monsters have said, look, we want to overthrow, and might I add, generally what they'll do is they'll find some traitor and they'll say this traitor should actually be your president. If it's Venezuela, they're like, yeah, Juan Guaido, we know who the hell this idiot is. But you know what? He's the president now. They find a traitor to their country and they say he's the new president. We'll recognize him as president. And so meanwhile, in Russia, they've already found their traitor. It's like Navalny. Hey, how's that guy doing? Well, he's never really gotten above 3% in the polls. Good enough. He should be the president. Why is Navalny? He's our guy. Except the Russians ain't the Venezuelans. They ain't the Venezuelans. Guaido's still walking free in Venezuela. Navalny ain't walking free in Russia. He ain't walking free. And you just have to know the bottom line on the whole thing. Navalny, he was a crook anyway. He got him and his brother embezzled 500,000. Navalny, it's hilarious. These idiots making Navalny some kind of a hero. Navalny and his brother were found guilty of embezzling $500,000. Oh, this is a Russian trick or something? This is illegal. The Russians are really doing it. He embezzled the money from a French company. So, a French company, it was called Yves, what's the name of it? Rose or Yves Roge. You can look it up. But at any rate, but Navalny and his brother, Navalny is in jail because he was on parole. What was he on parole for? Him and his brother's in jail right now, embezzled $500,000 from a French company. Call that a French company, Yves Rocher. So that's somehow Russian, Putin, something or other, criminal stuff, because he robbed a French company, and that's what he's in jail for. But here's what they saw. Over in Venezuela, you got this idiot named Guaido, and you've decided he's the president. Here, you got this freaking criminal moron named Navalny. You've decided he's the president, and you're now saying, Assad's an evil demon, dictator. Venezuela, Maduro's an evil dictator. Putin's a soulless killer. Wait a minute. And Russia woke up, and they realized that there's no place for negotiations and diplomacy. Look, you can't negotiate with a serial killer, can you? And when someone says, look, you're an evil, soulless killer, and the time for negotiation is over. So I suspect what we see is Russia backs off. And what actually ultimately happens, let's go the same week. So during the week when Joe Biden, during this week that will be remembered, books will be written about this last week. 50 years from now, people will look at this last week and say, that was a week that changed some things going on in the world. So what happens? China and Russia have been recently discussing things, basically saying we need an alliance. In fact, Russia said, look, the relationship between China and Russia may have all of the features of an alliance, but our rhetoric will say something else. In other words, we're becoming an allies with China, very, very close allies, but we're not going to say that. Okay. So meanwhile, he sends sociopath idiot Mike Pompeo Jr. to Alaska to meet with the Chinese, and he proceeds to insult the Chinese and pretend as though we're the gods of the earth and they simply have to listen to what we say. You Chinese will listen to what we say or else. And the Chinese are like, fuck you. You know what I mean? They're like, no, ain't happening. This idea of a unipolar world, that the United States is in charge of everything and everybody just has to listen to them. The Chinese say, screw you. And they also say, mind your tone. Why? Diplomatic decorum, right? International decorum. When you talk to people from other countries, I don't care if it's the tiniest country in the world or the biggest superpower in the world, there is a particular decorum that diplomats use. If you ever talk to diplomats, they are very wary of offending diplomats from other countries, even people that they don't like. Why? Because you got to work out deals. And if you offend people and they get pissed, you might not even ever get a deal. And you're offending the entire country. When the president of a country, the leader of a country, sends their diplomats to negotiate with you, those diplomats speak for the president of that country. So when President Xi sends diplomats to talk to Tony Blinken is the person, the spiritual presence, though not the physical presence, of Joe Biden. And the leaders of China, they're the presence of President Xi. So to disrespect them is to disrespect the president of the country. To disrespect Blinken is to disrespect the president of the country. So what does Blinken do? He starts off with total disrespect, talking down to him. We'll hold you accountable for what you're doing. Human rights, blah, blah, blah. And the Chinese say, look, we don't try to tell you what to do in your country. Don't try to tell us what to do in ours. We're not even going to talk to you about what's going on in our country. None of your business. Mind your business, and you got problems of your own. You got Black Lives Matter protests. You've got the January 6th protests. You got money problems. You got 500,000 people dead of the coronavirus. Don't come preaching to us. That's what the Chinese said, and it's realistic, right? So what happens? The message is clear to Russia. We will not negotiate with you, because you are just evil beings. And so therefore, the only thing left, the only thing you can do with pure evil is destroy it. That's the message to Russia. The only thing we can do with Vladimir Putin and the leadership of Russia is destroy it, because they're pure evil. No soul means incorrigible, means no help. Look, think about, again, let's go back to horror movies. A vampire. What is the things that's said about vampires in a classic vampire movie? That a vampire has no soul. It's like an evil demon thing. No soul, which means it doesn't feel emotions. It doesn't have love. Look at the movie. There's a very funny movie with Hugh Jackman called Van Helsing, and in there, the Dracula's talking and he's saying, "I have no soul. I have no heart, no feelings, no emotions, no nothing." Right? That's a vampire movie. That's a vampire. No soul. It implies an evil, dark being with no conscience. It implies a sociopath, right? No conscience is a sociopath. Read the you know me, I'm a prolific reader. I've read books, tons and tons of books on everything. But one of them was The Sociopath Next Door, sitting right over there on my whatchamacallit. I guess I read it. I need to give it to somebody. I get rid of it. But at any rate, so you've got these two gigantic countries, 200 million people in Russia, 1.3 billion people in China. So altogether, you got 1.5 billion people in these two countries. You have China, a country who is probably advanced past us when it comes to civilian technology. You have a country called Russia who is probably advanced past us when it comes to some areas of military technology, particularly anti-aircraft and missile technology. They passed us. And I would argue if they passed us on those two, they probably ain't the only two, right? So, I mean, think about it. What was the first country to come out with a vaccine? It was Russia, the Sputnik 5 vaccine, which appears, if you read everything, the Lancet report and everything, it appears to be one of the best on the market with the least amount of side effects. And why do I say that? I say that because the point I'm making is Russia is a highly advanced technical scientific country. China is a highly advanced technical scientific country, like the United States. There's some areas where we pass them. There's some areas where they passed us. These are our peers. These are not junior countries, right? Militarily, economically, technologically. But we treated them in the last week. We've treated both countries like they're garbage. So what happens? So now what we've got is Russia and China saying, you know what? We tried to have diplomacy with the United States. Can't happen. It ain't happening. We're evil fiends and beings, and they talk down to us like we're a junior partner, and we want to be respected in the same way respected. So what's going down is this, and mark my word, all of the signs are there. I've read lots of stuff about this. There's things. 2 days after the meeting with, and this is an announcement that has been made. 2 days after the meeting with between the U.S. and Russia, I mean the U.S. diplomats and China, right? Sergei Lavrov is the Russian foreign minister. He's going to go to China to meet with the Chinese. In other words, now we've been insulted by the U.S. They've come after you. So now it's our turn. There we go. Here's an article I got right in front of me, right? Lavrov's visit shows close China-Russia coordination in face of U.S. alliance encircling. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's scheduled visit to China on March 22nd and 23rd, 2 days after the first China-U.S. high-level meeting since Biden took office, is of great significance, as the close China-Russia coordination will offset the impact of U.S. troublemaking after its just concluded 2+2 dialogues with its allies Japan and South Korea. The timing of Lavrov's visit is noteworthy, as it means Russia is the first country China shares information and opinions with on key issues after the China-U.S. face-to-face communication, which shows China and Russia have deep strategic mutual trust and support each other on core interest. Do you know where I'm reading this from? Global Times. China's one of China's official, their English version news sites. So China is making it clear there's a strategic alliance, which means, and think about this. Okay, the U.S. can argue, China's not as powerful as economically or militarily. Well, Russia's not as powerful as us as militarily on the world stage, you go attacking Russia and coming after Russia. The answer is that's you don't want to do that. That's a powerful, nobody denies the power of the Russian military and their ability. Let's not, underestimate the power of that military if you have to attack them. But here's my point. But put them together. Does anyone think that the United States can go toe to toe with Russia and China economically? That's 1.5 billion people and those two economies together. Yeah, no. America loses that war. They lose that war technologically. They lose that war militarily. So Russia and China are now saying, bottom line, here's what I'm saying. Let me sum it all up. Joe Biden and that flock of idiots have created a dynamic where Russia and China now have a powerful strategic alliance. And the reason they're doing that is to protect themselves from what they see as a malevolent force in the United States, in the Biden administration. They already weren't real thrilled with Trump and Pompeo, and they were a mess. Biden has taken it to a next level, which also means that strategic alliance will broaden. Because the United States, I don't know if you know this, you need to look it up. Russia and China, and I will look that up for you. Russia, China, I'm searching right now, 16 nations. So why am I searching Russia, China, 16 nations? China, Iran, North Korea. There we go. Russia has joined about 16 nations. Here we go. China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and others are seeking support for a coalition to defend the United States, the United Nations Charter, by pushing back against the use or threat of force and unilateral sanctions, right? And if you look, there's other countries involved. Oh, other founding members are Algeria, Angola, Belarus, Bolivia, Cambodia, Cuba, Eritrea, Laos, Nicaragua, St. Vincent, Grenadines, Syria, and Venezuela. So what you're seeing is a block of countries brought together to oppose the U.S. And we're going around the world overthrowing the hell out of everybody. And it's going to grow. And the Biden administration, to say that the last week was diplomatically, militarily bungled is an understatement. It's the equivalent of referring to a tidal wave as moisture. To say that they screwed up is like saying a tidal wave is moisture. They have created a giant, because the U.S. has been exposed as a malevolent empire that's trying to overthrow the damn world. And they are going to create an anti-imperialist and empire bloc against the U.S. And what choice do they really have? If you think about it, I mean, if you're just like, United States good and whoever is against us is evil, you're going to be like, Garland's crazy. Oh my God, what does he talk about? I would consider myself a political analyst and an international security analyst. I try to evaluate these things, right? I try to negotiate these goings on as though I wasn't American or Russian or Chinese or anything, as though I was a space alien who had landed here and was working as an alien for my country, which is a planet, I guess, in this instance, in this particular metaphor. And so I'm here and I got no fish, I got no, I don't have a dog in this hunt because I'm going back to my planet when I'm done anyway. So I'm going to evaluate this. There ain't no good guys and bad guys. And when I do it like that, I say, the U.S., we got 800 bases around the world. How many's Russia got? How many's China got? A handful, 3 or 4? Right? And what does Russia have? They've got, I mean, if you look at it, the U.S. is saying, you got to give up Crimea. Well, that's absurd. They ain't giving up Crimea. Let me ask you this. The U.S. was attacked from the east, and the country that attacked us came through Hawaii. They came to Hawaii. The Sixth Fleet was there. They attacked Hawaii first. The U.S. keeps the Sixth Fleet in a lot of ships and stuff like that in Hawaii. Do you think the U.S. is going to give up Hawaii? No, we're not going to give up Hawaii. Ever going to give up Hawaii, because the U.S. views that as that's an area that they'll attack when they're coming to get us, if they come from Japan or China or something, right? Okay. Russia has a warm water seaport. One. They got another one in Syria, but that's another story. I'm talking about in Russia. and it's in Crimea. It's their warm water seaport. It doesn't freeze. It's on the Black Sea. They've had that since the 1700s, since Catherine the Great. They ain't giving it up. When the U.S. overthrew Ukraine in 2014, Russia basically said, yeah, we're keeping Crimea. They have a base there, their only warm water base, and it is heavily defended, and they ain't giving it up. So the idea that we're like, you have to give up Crimea, I tell you what, they'll give up Crimea when we give up Hawaii, which is never. And see, why is it important what I'm saying? And it gets back to diplomacy. Part of international diplomacy, having sat down and talked with international diplomats, I can tell you this. A big part of international diplomacy is recognizing that every country has strategic interests. Every country has red lines, right? Every country. It's like you can only go this far. If you go past the red line, that's war. Russia has them, China has them, the US has them. But we don't want to recognize that other countries have them. Right? We don't want to look at Russia and say, well, in 2014, what happened? The U.S. overthrew the government of Ukraine on Russia's border. What would we do if Russia overthrew the country of Mexico or Canada and put a puppet government in? That would be war. The U.S. overthrew the government of Ukraine on Russia's border and put in a puppet government. And Crimea was kind of autonomous, kind of a part of Ukraine, but it wasn't really. And there were agreements there. And part of the agreement was Russia would have their Black Sea base there because they've had it there since the 1700s. Their only Navy base that doesn't freeze up in the winter. They ain't giving that up. And part of being diplomacy is to recognize that that's their strategic interest. And if you think you're going to take that, that means war, and they will fight for that. They will. If you think you're going to take that, they figure this is already war. Because if we lose that, our Navy's screwed. Ain't happening. Okay. That's recognizing that. That's recognizing that. Why did the Russians go to Syria when the U.S. tried to overthrow Syria? Why did the Russians send military there? Why did they send all kinds of forces there and ensure that the U.S. was unable to overthrow Syria? Because they got an air base there, and they have in Tartus, they have a Navy base there that they've had since 1971. They weren't given. They had bases there. So here's what I'm saying: it's to understand and recognize that Russia has strategic interests. That every country has strategic interest, and that's what diplomacy is about. And you give a little and you take a little, but knowing the red lines. So now when these morons, I thought that the Trump people were idiots, which they were. Pompeo, good, sweet, heavenly Lord, that guy was a psychopath. I figured that he's a moron. But they were stupid enough to really confront China like a flock of morons. But at least they didn't, like, they're like, okay, we won't confront Russia. Not both of them, because what you're going to do is drive them together, and you're going to have this gigantic block of power that you can't beat. I mean, let's not fool it. Does the U.S. want to go to war with Russia and China? How's that going to work out? It's World War III. And in every scenario that's been gamed for the U.S. going to war with Russia and or China ends in nuclear war. So if you go to war with them, you might as well put a gun in your mouth and pull the trigger, because we're all dead. Right? Again, that's how stupid Biden and his team are. And saying, well, the Trump people, they're going to kill us all. We'll all die because they won't recognize climate change. To me, I'm a lefty person. That seems like a reasonable thing to say. And then you are going to go skirting around the edges of nuclear war. So what are you? Hey, we might die from climate change in 100 years, but we can't wait. We're going to get a nuclear war going right now and annihilate us in 100 hours or 100 days. These people are the most dangerous people in the history of humankind. The Biden administration and his cabal of insane people are the most, and I don't say this lightly, are the most dangerous human beings in the history of humans. Since man stood upright, there has never been an organization as dangerous as the leadership of the Democratic Party right now, as the leadership of the country right now, as the leadership of the intelligence communities, as the leadership of those idiots in the Republican Party who are going along with this crap, who are like, yeah, China. They want confrontation with nuclear superpowers that could end in the annihilation of all humankind. Could you be more dangerous than that? And through their propaganda in the mainstream media, they are dragging along a flock of idiot, brainwashed cult members in the Democrat and the Republican Party who can't even see that their living's marching off a cliff. Instead, they're looking at their cult leaders like, yay, we're saved. Joe Biden. Oh no, Joe Biden's not really the president. Trump's going to come back in a couple years and he'll confront the China nuclear superpower and we'll be dead from nuclear fallout the same. But at least our guy will take us out. Two brainwashed cults. And people are like, hey, well, Garland, what do you think about the Democratic Party? Same as I think about the Republican Party. They're brainwashed cults. And I don't try to make sense with people in that in either of those parties, because I mean, let's face it, if you're a cult member, how far what you can't negotiate with cult members. So here we are. So I guess that's it. I'm right around 40 minutes. I'll leave it at that. And I will just say, I think I've made my point. What Joe Biden did was foolish. And now, oh, I had one more thing. And don't think that this is not connected. So the U.S. is on the border of North Korea. And what we do fairly regularly is we do these flyovers and pretend like we were going to attack North Korea and overrun it. And North Korea looks at it and they're saying, we don't like this. So now that has been halted temporarily because of the coronavirus, of the COVID. But the Biden people are saying we're going to start doing it. And can you imagine if Russia was flying along our border, like doing imitations of bombing runs and imitations of attacking us and landing troops and over? What would we do? We'd defend ourselves. So what has happened? North Korea has said, we ain't talking to you guys. It's over. It's done. The U.S. is like, all right, we're going to threaten you, and then you must talk to us immediately. And North Korea is like, that dog don't hunt no more, buddy. That train's done left. There is nothing for us to talk to you about. We have a nuclear weapon, so you ain't going to attack us. We know that, and you know that. The world knows that the message is clear from the United States. The only thing that will protect you is if you got a nuclear weapon, then we won't attack you. Other than that, you're screwed, right? So North Korea is like, well, we got a nuclear weapon. What you going to do? You ain't going to attack us. We know that. Shut up and get out of our face. So now the Biden administration, research it. Look, the Biden administration is now saying, we've been sending messages and emails to the North Koreans and they're not answering. Oh, well, there's a shock. You've pretty much told to go around the world saying we're going to overthrow this government, we're going to overthrow that government. We recognize this person as the leader of the justifiable leader of Venezuela. Some idiot named Juan Guaido. He's the Pete Buttigieg of South America. Yeah, he's the leader. Why would North Korea strike a deal with you? How's the deal work out with Iran? You made a deal with Iran. Barack Obama made a deal. Iran abided by the deal, right? Iran abides by the deal. And a new president comes in, kills the deal. Now Biden comes in and Iran says, we're ready to get back in the deal. And Biden says, not so fast there. That was a fine deal. We want another deal. And Iran says, no, you left the deal. We abided by it. If you want in, you get back in. If you don't, we are out. Screw that. And you left and you put the sanctions back on us. You have to take the sanctions off and get back in. The U.S. is like, well, nah. We're going to make a new deal and you're going to do what we say. And Iran is like, no, forget you. Screw that. Get back in the deal or don't, but we ain't talking to you. Because people are realizing that we are not a reliable partner. And North Korea, I don't think, is going to deal with us. I don't think they want a deal. I don't think they care about a deal. I think they've come to the reality that you can't negotiate with a serial killer. And if the United States and the Biden administration are saying we want to talk to you, that just means we want to demonize and overthrow your government. How can we get close? If you know I want to kill you, you can't let me get close enough to stick a knife in you. Hey, you know what? I hate your guts and I want to kill you. Can we sit down and have tea tomorrow? No. Okay, fair enough. We can't have tea. I know. How about in the evening? We'll have coffee. No. I know you want to kill me and take my home. I'm not letting you in my home, and I'm not talking to you on the front yard. You keep your distance. Don't call me. Stay away from me. Don't email me. Nothing. That's what North Korea is saying. And you know what? I think they're smart. If you already know that the US overthrows countries that they don't like or they want their resources and installs puppet government and they're saying they want to talk to you, you better not talk to them if you got a half a brain. And they're looking at a nuclear superpower and a military superpower like Russia. They're looking at an economic superpower and a military superpower like China. And they're seeing the United States talk to these people like they're dogs and accuse them of being soulless killers. And they're like, Vladimir Putin, Russia ain't no joke when it comes to military. China, when it comes to military and economics, they're the real deal. If you would talk to them like us, like that, we know what you think of us. We don't have the kind of power like either of those countries, and you treat them like they're dirt under your feet, we ain't talking to you. That's where North Korea is now. They won't talk to the, you know, as bad, if you know me, you know I'm a lefty, and I hate both parties. So Donald Trump, just being a member of the Republican Party, threw him out. As far as I'm concerned, I can't support. You're a member of a party, get out of here. These two parties are just malevolent forces and brainwashed cults. So when I saw his foreign policy, I believe in a fair and equal foreign policy where everybody in the world is treated as equals, and certainly that wasn't happening under Pompeo et al. Right? So I was like, screw them. Their policy's terrible. Boy, I can't imagine a worse policy than Donald Trump. Well, of course, but Obama's, Bush's, they're horrific, right? Okay. I fear that from the looks of things, Biden's policy was worse because you get the same exact bravado and threats with China, but now you've added Russia. You've added so now we got to sit here going to sleep at night, not knowing if we're going to get a mushroom cloud and we're all done, thanks to this moron, because he's pushing things up to the edge. You should not be doing that with a nuclear superpower. They want to negotiate with us. China wants to negotiate with us. And the Biden administration says, no, you guys are killers. You have no soul and you'll do what we tell you. And now we sit with these idiots running our country. Joe Biden, mark my word, the Biden administrations, the outcome of their foreign policy will be disastrous. I just pray that they do not start World War III. I just pray that they do not get us into some nuclear war because that's the end of everybody. Me, you, everybody's watching. There's nothing to watch anymore. What'll happen? You know what'll happen? You know how it all ends? This is how it ends. 100 years from now, a spacecraft lands. And it's from another planet, mine, for instance. And they land and they say, hey, looks like there was once people or something on this planet. It's kind of our equivalent to our Geiger counters are going off. Man, there sure is a lot of radiation around here, and it looks like everything's blown up and black and crisp. Oh, wait a minute, what's this? An old burnt up rainbow flag. Huh. That's weird. Everybody's dead, and the only thing's left is a burnt rainbow flag. That's all you're going to get with the Biden administration. They will leave a partially incinerated rainbow flag, and everybody else will be dead with these morons. That's the direction they're going. They make me sick. I despise these people because they're endangering us and our families. But look at the bright side. After we're all dead, if trans people had survived, they'd had great, Black Lives Matter had survived. Why? They'd have got fairness. If this group had survived, if any human beings had survived, hey, they'd have stood up for fairness. But sadly, they didn't. And so maybe the planet can be settled by people who are more reasonable. Right? Maybe when they sit back and they watch these morons and they're like, well, they're going to kill ourselves, but whenever we get finished, we'll clean the planet up a little bit. It's a fixer upper. You know what I mean? Earth, it ain't perfect. It's a fixer upper. We got to vacuum up some of the nuclear material. We got to clean the place up, tidy up a little bit, maybe a few more animals here and there, get a little bit of this plastic out of the ocean and we can use it. The U.S. hasn't taken care of it very well. It's kind of like a rental property. The aliens will land. It's kind of like you rent your property out to somebody. I don't like renting property out to people because they don't take care of it. You rent it out to somebody, you come over, it's your townhouse, and they've tore it to shreds. When the renters leave, you got to fix everything, right? Well, that's the way they'll look when they'll land on this earth. They'll be like, my God, the Americans, the humans only had like technology for like 100 years, and they screwed this thing up, killed themselves, and they left a mess for us to clean up. But let's get it cleaned up so we can get going. There we go. As Kathy Worth says, a few pillows, some flowers. There we go, Kathy. A few pillows, some flowers, and it'll be right as rain. Yeah, we can clean this mess up, can't we? So the bottom line is, yeah. There's Third Eye Witnesses says, Garland, your UFO analogies need work. Hey, man, look, I'm doing the best I can here. You know what I mean? I'm not a great storyteller here. Here's the bottom line: my analogy may be good, but if it comes true in any way, shape, or form, it ain't a good thing. And my point is, I try to use jest. It's a bit of gallows humor. When nuclear superpowers, as there's an old African proverb that says, when the elephants fight, the grass gets trampled, right? When nuclear superpowers are at each other's throats, and in this instance, they ain't at each other's throats. We are at the throats of the other nuclear superpowers, and they don't want to be at our throats, right? You got to laugh because your days could be numbered. And as I said, the world, I think, is looking at Joe Biden and saying, what in the hell are you doing when it comes to Russia and China, acting like you act? And the last thing I'll say about that, Putin is a killer with no soul. Sadly and pathetically, the Democratic Party has devolved. Both our parties have devolved into the point where they're just like warring cults and warring street gangs. Antifa versus the Boogaloo Boys and the what's the other flock of morons? The Proud Boys, and on and on and on. Right? Warring street gangs is what they have devolved into. If you look at history, look up Tammany Hall in New York. What did they do? It's like known for its political corruption. And what did they do? They used street gangs to go out and beat people over the head so they couldn't vote. That's what the U.S. has devolved into. We've devolved into warring street gangs. It's Antifa. Oh no, it's the Boogaloo Boys. Oh, it's the Proud Boys. Morons beating each other over the head in the streets. Think about how stupid you have to be to like wear black or something that says Proud Boys and go out into the streets like some kind of a knuckle dragging Neanderthal, and like people who have the same economic needs, people who are both laid off. Hey, that guy's with Antifa, that guy's with the Boogaloo Boys. They're both freaking laid off, getting nothing from the government. I know. We'll take this here. Take a club. Hit og. That's what y'all are. You're Neanderthal cavemen, ugg and og, beating each other over the head with a friggin' log. And the billionaires in Wall Street are like the billionaires in Silicon Valley. The billionaires in Seattle are sitting up there like, would you look at these idiots? There's nothing we could do. We couldn't dream this up if we wanted to get these idiots to beat the hell out of each other. Oh, this is fun. They're sitting back there, man. They're watching TV, and there's some flipping moron from Antifa, some kook from Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys, whatever, and they're beating each other over the head, and they got popcorn. You think they ain't got popcorn? They got popcorn in Silicon Valley. They're sitting up there with their mansions. Hey, dude, pass me some of that wine. I think one of these idiots just beat another one. Oh, wait a minute. Let's rewind. This Antifa guy, you ain't going to believe it. He just beat this Proud Boys guy over the head. Oh, wait a minute. There's a shooting. I think some of them are going down. Woo-hoo-hoo. They're high-fiving as the mindless sots on the street beat the living shit out of each other with blunt objects, and they're just turning up wine. Cat ching ching. Hey, how's it going there, Jeff Bezos? I think I just made $100 million. Yes. Hey, I don't have time to talk to you right now. I'm watching some idiot beat the hell out of some other poor idiot. I'm watching poor people beat the living crap out of each other on MSNBC. So I'll get back with you. We'll have some wine and we'll talk about our money later. That's where we are. That's where we are. Warring street gangs. We have devolved into cave people in the United States. So much so that we don't even know what the hell's going on in the rest of the world anymore. That's where we are. Warring street gangs. And some of us, a few of us here and there, are trying to wake some people up. That's all. And it ain't working most of the time, but who cares? It's fun trying. Now the blue cult says our guy Joe Biden's in. Joe Biden is a pathetic mess. The dude's got some kind of mental illness, but it don't matter. This is not about Biden. This ain't even about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a conduit for power. He's like a pipe. You know what you do with a water pipe? You push stuff through it. You push water through it, right? You can push air through it. You can put gas through it. You can put fuel through it. You can push whatever you want because a pipe is a hollow conduit where one thing goes to another place, right? That's what Joe Biden is. He is a conduit. He's an empty pipe so that the super powerful people can say, I want this. They push it through Joe Biden and it happens. Ain't no reason to get mad at Joe Biden. He's doing what he told. Trump wasn't much different. You can't be the look. You think Trump chose John Bolton? No, he hated John Bolton. Sheldon Adelson chose John Bolton. Sheldon Adelson's policies went through the conduit of Trump. All the pro-Israel stuff and all of that came from Adelson and his company. They told Trump, you'll do this, and Trump did it. And if you don't, they put a bullet in your head. Ask JFK. Trump did what he was told. That's all it was. Biden's doing what he was told. And every now and then some sucker latches to one of these cult leaders and thinks they actually really have power and they can really do something. They can't. Look, Donald Trump said, bring the troops home from Afghanistan and Syria. Did they ever come home? No, they didn't. We've now found out they lied to him. They just said, yeah, we only got 1,000 troops when they had like 2. We got 2,500 Trump troops when they had 35. They didn't give a crap about Trump. Why wouldn't they lie to him? He wasn't in charge. Same with Joe Biden. He ain't in charge. If he goes back, if his masters don't like the fact that he said Putin is a killer with no soul, they'll slap him on the hand. Joe, bad boy, bad president. They'll bring some newspaper, the newspaper that says he called Putin a killer with no soul, just like you do with a puppy when you're training him, and they'll rub his nose in it. Bad Joe. Don't say that again. Here we go. You see, there's the newspaper. They'll rub his face in the newspaper like they were training a puppy. And you know what he'll do? Exactly what he's told. And people online will talk about how evil or good Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is nothing but a pipe through which the powerful people push their policies in the same way Obama was, in the same way Trump was, in the same way Bush was. And if you think anything other than that, you don't have a clue as to how this system works. All right. That is that. I've been talking for an hour or close to it. I think that's long enough. So here's what I'm going to give you. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm going to tell you how to do it. At Garland Nixon on Twitter, but you can already see that scrolling across the bottom. Please follow me. Facebook, Garland Nixon. My YouTube channel, of course. Hopefully you're watching me on there. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and click the little bell so that you will be notified. And please share this stuff on all of your platforms. And I guess that's about it. Oh, no, the most important thing. Feel free to email me. I give out my email address. My email is GarlandN. That's my first name and the first letter of my last name, garlandn@gmail.com. And people say, boy, you sure are specific with that stuff, because I have OCD. I'm an OCD person, so I'm very specific with details. You can even tell the way I talk, specific with words. They must be pronounced just right. It's OCDs. I can't help it. But, it's as my dad used to say, the same thing will make you laugh will make you cry. So my OCD can be my worst enemy. When something's out of place, I may freak out. But because I'm OCD, it makes me research. And I don't ever want to be right. I want to be correct. That's OCD. I don't want to be right. I don't want to win an argument because I was right. I'd rather lose an argument if at the end of the argument, I'm correct. I don't want to defend things that I don't know about. If somebody says, what about this, huh? If I don't know, I say, I'll research it and get back to you, because I want to be correct. And I don't care. And I'm not attached to some party that I have to be loyal to this party or that party. And everybody in my party believes this. Everybody in my party hates that guy. No, I don't believe in that. I want to be correct. And, that's that. As I said, it's like a space alien that gets dropped on this earth and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And he doesn't have a dog in this fight. That's the way I want to look at things. All right. Thank you very much. I want to thanks for everybody. People are making great comments. Hey, I'm going to put some of them up. My main man, Coop W, he's out there. How about Third Eye Witness? Amen. Garland is the man. How about we go with Oh, I like this. Again, third eye witness. Hey, maybe God should cover since UFOs since Fox News is. How about we go to Lucy. Breaking news: President Putin challenges Joe Biden to a stair climbing contest. I think we know Joe Biden's going to. That guy's stumbling and bumbling up the stairs. How embarrassing was that? Jeez, you know what I'm thinking to myself? To be honest, he's an old man. Somebody go help that poor bastard. I mean, look, if I seen a guy I've known people that are 80 years old. When my dad was 80, he could run up and down those steps like nothing. Poor Joe Biden looks like he's having some trouble. Okay, he looks like he's having some trouble. There's Shah Yard. You are in good company. Garland, have you looked into 9/11? Oh, and guess what? E&O thinks there's great content today. Yeah, Joe Biden. What I'm thinking to myself is, somebody help the poor old bastard up the stairs. He's slipping and sliding. Look like they just laid banana peels from the top to the bottom. His coordination ain't the best. Joe Biden has some issues. Let's be friendly to the poor old guy. And the next time they see him, I mean, it was wrong. It's like the Marine Corps guys, like his Marine Corps guards that are standing there like this, right? One of them should have been like, and then they should have struck him like, he's having a rough time. Here, let me give you a hand, sir, and help you up. If I was there, just because he's old and his mind doesn't seem to be working as well as it should, and God knows his coordination could, it's get rough. I don't even like Joe Biden. I can't stand him or Trump or anybody who leads any of these parties, but I'd have helped him up the friggin' steps because it was kind of embarrassing for us all. And Peter says, don't blame me for Joe's slip. I tried to push him left. Yeah, good luck. How'd that work out with the people who were going to push Joe Biden left? At any rate, thanks a lot for everybody for hanging out with me. Thanks a lot, James Jackson. And thanks a lot, Shaw. And thanks a lot, Goop. And thanks a lot, James. And everybody, Kathy. The shit you see on the event horizon of black hole is in-stage capitalism. Does anybody know what an event? I'm glad you used the word event horizon. There was a movie called Event Horizon. Does anybody know what an event horizon is? Before I go, I will tell you, I've told you, I read. The thing about me is this: for people like, well, Garland, what is it about you? Why are you a good analyst? I'll tell you right now. I have an extremely good memory. I have an exceptional memory, and I love to read. And those two things go together. That's it. I read stuff and I remember it. So that kind of helps me. So event horizon, for those of you who don't know, here's what it is. A black hole is I guess a singularity. It is a spot where it is a place where the gravity is so powerful that nothing can escape the gravity. So right now, for a rocket to leave Earth, right, it has to reach a certain speed. That's called escape velocity, right? I forgot what it is, 77 kilometers per second, maybe for for Earth. I forgot what it is, but at any rate, something like that in Earth stuff. It's like 77 kilometers per second. You can look it up. So at any rate, it is escape velocity. You must reach that speed to escape from the gravity of a planet or an entity, a moon, whatever. They got their gravity, escape velocity. You reach that speed, you can pull away, right? The gravity is so great in a black hole that nothing can escape it, not even light. And let's not forget, light travels at 186,000 miles per second. So even 186,000 miles per second is not fast enough to escape a black hole, although there are types of radiation that actually can escape a black hole. But we don't need to talk about that anyway. At any rate, there are calculations that seem to prove that, which it's true. So anyway, let's go on. So as light is trying to escape it, it gets to a point where it can't escape. So all around the edge of the black hole is the event horizon. That is the place where light and everything's trying to escape, and it gets to that point and it can't get away. And it creates like a horizon around the black hole, which is called the event horizon. That's the event horizon. So when one of our brilliant people said event horizon, then that's what they were talking about jokingly. And maybe I should cover Fox. You'd be surprised if I covered them. I know a lot about UFOs. But at any rate, but I ain't. Because right now, I might be needing one kind of soon if things keep going in the direction they're going, right? I might be needing an unidentified flying object to get the hell out of here because things seems to be going south, as one might say. All right, peace. Garlandin@gmail.com. Thanks a lot, everybody. Certainly appreciate you coming on. And Glenn Kelly, big fan from Australia, always brilliant analysis. Thanks a lot. Thank you all. Don't forget to share to share this on all of your social media platforms. Peace. I'm out.